This is the WCBS Conversation. I'm Ray Hoffman, host of CEO Radio, with an original Shark Tank shark, Kevin Harrington. He's the genius behind the infomercial, the modern infomercial that we know on television. He's also the marketing man behind about 500, in fact, more than 500 successful products that, well, we know them as seen on TV. Welcome to the WCBS Conversation and CEO Radio, Kevin Harrington.
Great to be here. Thanks, Ray.
Yeah, this should be a lot of fun. Yeah. You know, this may just be my imagination at work. It sometimes goes off in great directions.
Okay.
But growing up, when you saw Ron Popeil demonstrating the Chop-O-Matic or the Veg-O-Matic on TV,
yes,
did that start setting off fireworks inside your brain?
Yes, it did, actually. I was very full of curiosity, as I say. And so Mr. Microphone he had, and
hey, good looking.
Yeah, right. You know, and of course then it's funny because Ron did all the he was the short form spots, and then I came along and I saw a big blank spot on 6 hours on the Discovery Channel, because Discovery was only an 18-hour-a-day network, and so I said, wait a minute, what are they going to do with that other 6 hours? And I said, well, maybe we could sell products that take a lot longer to sell than 60 seconds, right? And so that was the birth then of infomercials. So we were selling Gazelles by Tony Little and the Food Saver Food Seal. These were $300, $400, $500 products. You couldn't sell in 60-second spots. So I'll say that Ron was certainly, the pioneer probably of the spot business, and gave me a lot of inspiration in the early days.
Yeah. Now, I don't know anything about your bio prior to the starts of your businesses in the 1980s. So can you take me back before then and give me a sense of what influenced you, what shaped you growing up?
My father was an entrepreneur. He owned Harrington's Irish Pub, and so then he sold that and built a steakhouse, and then he had a catering hall, and so he was very entrepreneurial. I started in there when I was 11 years old.
And this was where?
In Cincinnati, Ohio. I say, how do you become an assistant chef at the age of 11? Your father owns the restaurant. The chef doesn't show. You're assisting your father flipping the steaks, right? So I learned very early on. I didn't want to own restaurants, okay?
Yeah.
But he said, be an entrepreneur. So I started a driveway sealing business, then a heating and air conditioning company. Then I became a business broker selling pizza parlors, laundromats, delicatessens, and small manufacturing. And that's when I started getting close to this whole infomercial space.
And Cincinnati would be an interesting town. First of all, for steaks, because you had a lot of four-star restaurants at that time, which I assume was very demanding if you were in the steak business, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Ted Kluszewski's restaurant and all those places.
Yeah, the Masonette, some great restaurants.
Right. I mean, and also in Cincinnati was Avco Embassy.
Okay.
Now, I'm assuming, I'm drawing a line here that may not connect, but the fact that there was a broadcasting company of some national import in Cincinnati, did that help lead you into this whole idea?
Not really. No, it was just, when cable first came to town, I was watching my 30-channel cable package, and CNN was 24 hours a day, and MTV was 24 hours. All of them were 24 till I got to channel 30, which was Discovery Channel, and there was bars on the screen, colored bars, when the first time I got there. And I called the cable company and said, I'm getting 29 of the 30 channels, but there's just these colored bars up on channel 30. They said, oh, that's 6 hours a day, you're gonna get nothing. And so that's when the light bulb went off, and I said, I'm going to come down and show you we can sell, let's put something in there. And that's when I started bringing them products.
And that's right. At the beginning of the 1980s, not every channel was 24 hours.
Exactly.
They were moving in that direction.
Exactly.
And I'm guessing you were the one who really moved them there.
Well, and you couldn't do it on broadcast because there was an FCC regulation that limited the amount of commercial time that you had in a 30-minute show. It was 7 minutes until 1984. And that's around the time all this came about.
Now, this company was Quantum International?
That was Quantum International back, yes, exactly.
And that became a huge success. I was looking for the Harvard Business School treatise on this thing. I couldn't find it. I wanted to read it to get a sense of why this thing succeeded in such a big way. And really, that did put you on the map, that company.
Babson actually ended up doing, Babson and MIT did a case study on quantum at one point.
No wonder I couldn't find it.
And so, but basically, I got 6 hours on Discovery, then we got more time on Life, 2 hours a day on Lifetime, the Nashville Network, which is now called Spike. But then we said, wait a minute, what is the movie industry does what? They go international. I wonder if we could put infomercials in England and Germany and Holland and all these other languages. So we were taking Tony Little and Jack LaLanne and George Foreman and all these people all over the world, just dubbed. Just like a movie would be dubbed, we would dub them and then partner with a local media company or a distributor. And so we went from 0 to 500 million, went public, New York Stock Exchange. It was a great story.
Yeah, and negotiating overseas in those days when it was a much less global economy must have been tougher than now.
I'll never forget the first time I walked into England to try to get distribution. They said, we hate the concept of a 30-minute infomercial because BBC was 1 and 2. They didn't even take 30-second commercials. So they're like, why do you think we would even consider putting anything on air in our country that's this hard sell 30-minute commercial? And it actually, this was a satellite channel that had just launched. And when we talked to them, we said, there's one reason why, and it's money, all right? Because we're gonna pay you a lot of money to run our shows. And in fact, I did a study that showed that the amount of downtime they had, how many homes they were in, we were projected to give them, it was W.H. Smith, and they own the airport stores where they sell newspapers. So I said, I did the analysis, I said, the money that I'm gonna give you is the equivalent of 272 of your W.H. Smith stores in profit, and you don't have to sign a lease, have any inventory, it's just a check that I'm gonna send you every month. And that's when they finally said, yes, let's do it. And that England was our first international market. And then from there, we were up on Sky Channel. And then we were in Germany and Holland, and the rest is history from there, all over the world.
There was a testimonial to you that I saw. It said that you took you noticed something that others thought insignificant and made it into an empire.
I like that. That's pretty good. I don't know if I said that, I'll take credit for it then.
I think it was somebody else who said it, but you can now claim it. Put the quotes around it.
Okay, good.
I love the title of one of your books, Put a Shark in Your Tank.
Yes, exactly.
How did that whole thing, Shark Tank, come about?
Well, so Mark Burnett is brilliant, and he owns The Voice, and The Voice came, I believe, from Amsterdam, from Holland, and the Shark Tank came from Sony, from Japan. And so the format of it was called Dragon's Den. And it was the same kind of format, 5 dragons, and people come and pitch their idea or their business, and then they either invest or don't. Well, Dragon's Den went into England, it went into Canada, and a bunch of markets, and then they came to the US, and Mark said, I don't want to call it Dragon's Den for 2 reasons. Number one, dragon is sort of more of a kid's thing than maybe another name. But then secondly, the brilliant thing of Mark Burnett was that Dragon's Den was already a global brand. He wasn't going to be able to go global with that brand. But when he came up with Shark Tank, now Shark Tank is a global company now. It's in dozens of countries around the world.
Now, were you one of many would-be sharks at the very beginning, at the audition process?
At the audition, yeah. When I met with Mark, he was interviewing dozens of potential sharks. Yes. It was fun.
And of the guests, is there one favorite or two?
Over the years, and I did, 150 plus segments and there's 5 segments that come on to do a 1-hour show. So I did quite a few shows, had a lot of fun with it. But there was several that did very, very well. But one that comes to mind, which is crazy, because sometimes they put products on to have a little entertainment factor because it's TV, right? So it can't just be all business, or it's going to be on a different channel. So a lady comes out and she says, "You've seen the movie Meet the Fockers, where the cat jumps on the toilet and goes to the bathroom? Well, we used this product to train those cats, and this is called City Kitty, a cat toilet training product." So that was pretty crazy, but that did millions and millions of dollars in sales. And was one of the more successful products from Shark Tank.
And was there any one of the sharks that you enjoyed dealing with the most?
Well, let's put it this way. I'm sitting here in New York, so I better mention Barbara Corcoran and Damon John, because they're both within earshot distance of your studio, right? Yeah. So I say Damon is the people shark, and Barbara is the sweetest shark, I say, because Barbara really, one time, O'Leary was giving someone $50,000 for some big piece of equity in the company, and Barbara said, you know, I just don't want you to be in business with O'Leary, so I'm going to just give you the money on a loan basis. I don't want any equity. Just take the money. And O'Leary got very upset at that, so he lost that deal. But that was Barbara. She just liked to mess sometimes with the other sharks, especially O'Leary.
Yeah, I notice you don't call him Kevin.
You know, I always say, do you know why he calls himself Mr. Wonderful? Yeah. And I ask, you know, why he calls himself that? Because nobody else will, right? And you know, he's the only one that thinks he's wonderful, right? I joke about Kevin though. He's a pretty cool guy. He's built his brand to be the tough guy, the tough shark.
Yeah. Now, has being on Shark Tank with all those pitches, the good ones, the goofy ones, influenced you or changed you in any way in terms of your view of entrepreneurism as we move into the 21st century?
I have to say yes. First of all, being on Shark Tank put me into a public spotlight where now, as Shark Tank is launching around the world, I mean, it's running I was just in Singapore and Hong Kong and Korea, and then I was in Sao Paulo. There's Portuguese sharks in Sao Paulo, and there's South African sharks in South Africa. They shoot local versions. Our versions of it run in some of the other markets like Singapore, et cetera. So as I go around the world, I didn't realize, first of all, Shark Tank is a global brand, but entrepreneurship is global. And you go to Singapore, there's more entrepreneurs per capita in Singapore than there is in the United States. So I just never realized. I was pretty close to the product side of the business, but I'm now more kind of helping entrepreneurs get started. It's explosive, and today with the gig economy, where like people want to have a weekend gig on Uber or you know a graphics company where they can just do a graphics thing for $99 or something. People want to be entrepreneurs. They want to get a little side hustle. So it's bigger and bigger, and I think as the days go further, even more so.
You know, going back to the late 40s, early 50s, Ron Popeil was actually out on the streets in Chicago pitching products.
He was, yeah.
And in the 80s and early 90s, Billy Mays was out on the boardwalk in Atlantic City.
Absolutely.
I think he had something called the Washmatic that he was demonstrating, a hose and a door that he would like.
That was my product with Billy.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
That was Billy's first infomercial, and I met Billy at the Philadelphia Home Show. And that was Billy's first ever infomercial. And the crazy thing of that, if I showed you a clip of it, you would laugh because it was terrible. And Billy himself was not very good, but he was very shy and timid, and it was his first ever. And so, and funny thing is, you meet him in person, and he had that power, but then on TV, he would talk like real light, and you know, it's just the camera did something. But finally, after a few more, he got better and better and better, and God bless him. He had 62 spots on TV when he passed away, God bless.
Yeah, you know, that reminds me, I shouldn't tell this story, but I will. It reminds me, there was a bar I used to hang out in downtown Cleveland, and we had all sorts of really interesting people, and the bartender was really interesting. So I was doing a talk show, and I thought, let's bring everybody in, give them headset microphones, bring in a couple of bottles, and just have some drinks and talk for an hour.
Right.
I'll do commercials, break, and then we'll just talk as if we're in the bar.
Yeah.
It was the worst hour I ever did in my entire career.
Oh, wow.
You know, just those things do fall flat sometimes.
Right, yeah, you got it.
You know, my point about Billy Mays and also Ron Popeil before him.
Yeah.
Then we've moved into the era of the Kathy Irelands and the Kardashians and so forth. You know, these celebrities doing infomercials.
Right.
And I'm wondering, are the old style pitchmen now fading from the scene?
Well, let's put it this way. You know, TV viewership's having a little tougher time today. So, you know, what's happening is the eyeballs have shifted into digital places also now. So we put our products on not just TV. We put them on Facebook. We put them on Instagram. We put them on YouTube, et cetera. So we've moved, but the 30-minute long infomercial is having a tougher time because kids today don't like to watch something. You know, they don't want to watch a 30-minute commercial. So we've had to kind of make them quicker, shorter, and also a little less pitchy where possible because they like more authentic style selling, right? And so, like you mentioned, the Kardashians, Kylie has built a $400 million beauty business because this is what she's wearing, and it's very authentic as she applies it and says, I only have 100,000 of these lip plumpers. You got to get them within the next 48 hours. And boom, they're gone. So it's amazing what's happening. I think the pitch people are becoming more the social media stars, but the old timers, you know, like the Billies and the Popeils, you know, I think it's tougher and tougher for the old timers, to be honest with you, because it's a new media marketplace.
Yeah. Did you do the research which led to the phrase "call in the next 10 minutes"?
I did not. I can't claim that one. I'm not sure who might claim that, but that was a good incentive, and they would also generally say you have to call in order to get a certain bonus or something like that. So there were reasons why you had to call. So yeah, but that there was always different little things like that we learned along the way.
You know, we have these three important business trends. They're secular trends now. You mentioned the one, which is the millennials not watching television the way they were, and mobile e-commerce, and the dominance of Amazon wiping out local retailers. How has that forced the as seen on TV operation to modify itself in recent years?
Great question. So a couple things. Number one, their knockoffs happen so fast in the industry. In the old days, you could have a product on TV for a year, 18 months before someone would say, I'm going to knock that off. Now, these things come out, you have to control your distribution. So, and you have to control the factory. You got to have patents in China, because if we've had situations where our own factory was actually selling a whole separate set of distribution channels, and then they were putting it on Amazon to compete against us. So how can I put something on TV and pay for that high cost when everybody now is checking Amazon before? That's what's happened. They check Amazon before they even buy it off of the as seen on TV spot. So we might have a website or a phone number, but they go to Amazon first. So we have to make sure that there's no illegal sellers selling it on Amazon before we launch, because they're going to get all the business or a cheaper price or whatever. So Amazon has helped in some ways, but in many ways it's made it a lot tougher for people spending big money on TV.
And what about the demographic issue? I mean, you've got fewer younger people, 18 to 49, watching television.
Right. So on TV, you're right. And the numbers on TV are tougher and tougher to make work. But once you go into retail, you have to put a little bit of TV out there, because that creates some institutional demand for the product. So that is an important part of the marketing mix. But nowadays, like I mentioned earlier, we have a percentage of the budget that goes towards digital for Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and then we still keep a percentage of the budget for TV. And this way, we're able to reach everybody, because the stores want to know that you're not just getting it in the store and then, now the media stops. They want to know that it's still as seen on TV, so to speak, right?
And so it's still a growth business.
So it's still,
growth industry.
Let's put it this way. I don't know that the industry is growing, but certain products are having tremendous success. So if you get a winner in the world of as seen on TV, you can still go sell 5 million, 10 million, 20 million pieces of a product. So from that standpoint, it's powerful, but it's tougher and tougher to get one of those is the challenge.
There's one new product that I'm crazy about, Meowawana.
Oh yes, Meowawana. Okay, I don't know where you saw. I saw that at the Global Pet Expo, by the way, and it's a catnip that looks like marijuana, but it's actually just catnip.
Yeah, with a reggae background on the commercial.
Yeah. You've seen that. That's crazy. That's a crazy one.
I'm thinking these must be incredibly fun to develop sometimes.
I love the industry. I work with entrepreneurs every single day. I go to about 20 trade shows a year still. So from housewares to hardware, fishing, golf, you name it, beauty. And I love networking. Coming up here real soon is the Houseware Show in Chicago. It's a big show. This is where all the Popeils of the world in their day will be hanging out there. Ron's kind of retired now, but the dealing with people with ideas, they have such a gleam in their eye when they get these products that I just have to find out, is there a market for it? Can we make it at the right price? What are the business economics? I got to play shark, at some point, right?
And I have to take you back now over these 500 some products that you've helped create.
Yes.
What was the first one?
Well, the first, that's a good story. My first actual infomercial was a 30-minute show where we sold franchises. So that wasn't a product, but where we featured franchise companies, and it was a show called the Franchise America Show. So that was 3 10-minute segments for lead generation for franchise companies. But the first product that we did was the Food Saver, which is the vacuum food sealer.
Oh, yeah.
And that became a huge success. And then the Ginsu knife was one that came early on in the early days also with Arnold Morris. So we had different names for it. We called it the Blade, we called it the Ginsu, we called it the Bonsai. Sometimes we knocked ourselves off to also be in the market against ourselves.
Right,
keep it fresh.
How many product pitches do you get a month?
I get thousands a year, so I guess hundreds a month at least, yeah. And sometimes I've done as many as 100 in one day. And when you do the math, to take a 3 to 5 minute pitch, multiply that times 100, that takes a while, okay? So, but yeah, so I get hundreds a month still to this day.
And I'm sure you see ones that you're terrifically excited about. And I want to go back over your entire career, because there must have been one product in particular that you can think of that you thought was going to be the biggest hit and was the biggest flop?
So this one is kind of crazy. Fitness has always been huge. So everything we touched with Tony Little seemed to work. We did the ab isolator, the Gazelle, all these, boom, we'd hit it, it would go. So one day, Chubby Checker walks in my office and he says, Kevin, he said, the problem with fitness is it's grueling and people don't like to do it. I have a fun way that they can do fitness. It's called the Twisticizer. And you're gonna listen to music and have fun while you're twisting. And when you twist, you're gonna lose weight. And so we lost $500,000 on that deal. And I hate to say, Chubby, he was a good guy, but I say, with a name like Chubby, maybe we shouldn't have been doing fitness. I'm thinking maybe, you know what I mean? So that was not a home run, it was a bomb. And I felt bad for Chubby because he put his heart and soul into this for 2 years, but I had to do the tooling, the manufacturing, the inventory. I put all the money up and lost all the money. But that's the one thing, Winston Churchill said it best. Success is being able to go from failure after failure without the loss of enthusiasm. And so it's hard to think about failing and being enthused, but you got to get those out of the system, move on, and have a success.
So let's say I have a product called the 1 hour Ray Wow.
Yeah.
And I bring it to you.
Right.
Your people look it over, they decide it's viable.
Right.
Then what happens?
Well, we may create the half-hour Ray Wow, okay? So, make it shorter and easier, okay? That's how our mind works.
Right.
Okay, so it's like the guy came to us with the 6-minute abs, and we said, what about 4-minute abs, okay? So, but because you are going to get knocked off, but the bottom line is somebody comes to us with a product, we do a little bit of kind of research, and sometimes we'll actually just throw something up on we'll do, some of these crowdfunding sites like Kickstarter, we'll put something up on Kickstarter to see if there's any pulse on it. We'll put it up on Facebook, see what people think. So looking for feedback, but short of that, we will produce nowadays a short little kind of low budget, off-Broadway type of commercial. We don't go, in the old days, like when I mentioned Chubby Checker, we went right to TV, 30-minute infomercial, big budget, huge expense. Now we like to test before we invest. Make sure before we spend the hundreds of thousands that we got some good feedback somewhere. So we do some kind of off-Broadway test, and whether it's Kickstarter or Facebook or Instagram, and then we read those results, and sometimes things will come back just through the roof, and we say, now let's run for the hills and do it in a big way.
Yeah. How many new products a year?
We launch right now around 30 new products a year. So that's like about one every other week.
Yeah, and this is all out of your headquarters in Florida.
Out of St. Pete, yeah. And we have my son lives up here in New York, so we have a little base up here also. And then anymore today, in the old days, we had our own telemarketing, our own fulfillment, our own media, our own production studio, 500 employees and different buildings all over the country. Now we use companies we outsource everything. It's amazing. We outsource fulfillment. phones are taken at people's homes, and the phone centers can send phone calls into people's homes that are making a little extra money. And so from film and customer service, phones, we produce them ourselves. So we have a studio in St. Pete, Florida, where we shoot the shows and the spots, and that's just a couple thousand square foot kind of place, and keep our overhead low, because why spend all the money on overhead when you get a hit? You want it to be profitable and make some money when it's all said and done, instead of paying all the employees, which is what I was doing in the old days sometimes.
And the real money is made overseas, right?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we want to make money everywhere, but we definitely we have less investment overseas because we're able to license it overseas. So we give the show and the product rights to somebody in England and Germany, and then they put up all the day-to-day. So they're buying the media, they're putting the product on TV, doing the digital, whatever it might be, and buying the product from us, and we put our markup on it. So our money's made on the front end. We have no risk. It's a very clean transaction.
Yeah. An annuity, though.
An annuity, yeah. Beautiful.
Now, there's one more project of yours I need to talk about, and that's the Zig Ziglar Project.
Yes.
I mean, the legendary salesman of Texas.
Yes. Zig, in fact, I was just in Dallas at their headquarters. So he was born in Yazoo City, Mississippi, one of 10 kids in his family. But Zig Ziglar, he passed away about 5 years ago. When he died, he had never done any social media. All these people wanted to send a tribute, and the family set up a Facebook page, and 4.5 million people came to give tribute on Facebook. So then the family had all these assets, 31 books in 36 languages, thousands of hours of tapes and recordings, but none of it was digital. It was all old school beta tapes, and literally like DVDs and all the old kind of media stuff. And DVD is, people still use DVDs, but these were on some cases cassette tapes and just old media, right? So what we've done is done a deal with the family, set up a venture to take all of the assets and digitize them and take them now to the millennials and any that are not familiar with Zig and the power. His book, Secrets of Closing the Sale, was one of the greatest sales books that ever came out. So I'm excited to say that I'm partnered with Zig Ziglar's family.
And you offer a lot of free downloads of his material.
We do. Zig's philosophy, his core secret was you can get everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want, right? And so we said, on that theme, you don't have to buy anything from us. We give you several. The first one's 40 minutes of free content, as Zig and myself. And we actually have created Zig in a hologram form now. So we recently was on stage with him in Toronto, Canada, for example. And Zig pops up on stage, and pretty amazing stuff. So we plan to be maybe taking Zig around the world in hologram form as this new, I say bringing Zig back to the future, because it's very futuristic, the way it all looks and comes across. And of course, it's taking the old media and making it digital now.
And that great quote of his, you can have anything in life you want,
right,
as long as you provide other people with what they want.
Exactly.
You know, that's the essence of capitalism.
Yes, it is. I mean, look, Zig, he was a great salesman, but he first wanted to be a problem solver. And by solving people's problems, thinking about them, he took the long-term view, because he didn't look at the short-term, I got to make a commission and get that check. I'm looking at the long-term view, because what's the lifetime value of the relationship if they can trust me and I have character and integrity and all of that, and I can help them. So that has gone a long way to certainly build an empire for Zig, and now we're hopefully going to be able to bring this to the masses that have never seen Zig Ziglar.
Secrets of Closing the Sale it's an iconic book.
It was one of the top sales books ever. It sold 1 million+ copies and many reprints, et cetera. So he was a master and a mentor to me for many years.
And one last question.
Yeah.
How many days a month do you spend at home?
Oh, is my wife listening? Let me ask. Okay. Right now, about 10. So I'd like to get it to 50-50, like I'd be 15 days on the road and 15 days at home. It goes in spurts. Now, this summer, I actually have a little bit of downtime, because summer things, I think they take weeks on end off over in Europe. So And things do slow down a little bit in the summer, but first quarter has been a really hard charging quarter so far. So, you know, so I had 3 weeks off at Christmas last year, and I try to get it when I can, but it goes in spurts. But right now, only about 10 days a month at most.
You do some hard charging, I think, right?
I enjoy it, and I've got two young boys now. One's 29 and one's 20. So they're both. The 29-year-old's been with me now 8 years, and he's taken a really big position in the company now. So helping me out, because eventually I'm gonna be at home probably 25 days a month, and play a lot more golf than I do right now. So I'm looking forward
Your
to that.
son is out there. I don't believe he's going to actually do that. Well, continued success, Kevin Harrington.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure
Appreciate
to have you here. And you can find my feature, CEO Radio, on WCBS 880 and at radio.com. Ray Hoffman, till next time.